How to manage your UK property investment remotely? Do you need to visit the UK personally to handle your tenant? Today we're going to deep dive into this topic. Let's go. Hey, my name is JS. I'm a Singapore real estate agent and I have personally invested in a few UK properties. I make this video for the purpose of educating people who are keen to invest in UK properties. In this video, I'll clarify one of the most commonly asked questions: how to manage the UK property remotely from Singapore. The solution is pretty straightforward. You simply engage the service of a local property management company who is located close to your property, and they will represent you in all matters relating to your property, especially facing the tenant. What kind of service does a property management company provide? Typically, they provide a tenancy setup service. So for a new built property, they work with the developer to collect the keys. They will do defects check. They will arrange with the developer to get things repaired, right? If you have purchased a furniture pack, they will work with the furniture pack supplier to get the furniture delivered and arrange the property nicely. They will take pictures. They will market the unit, right? So this is a typical letting service that they provide. So when there's a prospective tenant, then they will do also the tenant referencing check. They check their credit background, they check their occupations, etc. Right? So all these they will handle until the tenant move in. Next, we have the full management services during tenancy. Right? So this is where the agent will manage the tenant. They will be responsible for collecting the rent. Then they will, if there's any maintenance feedback, they will handle it. If there's any dispute, they will also handle on your behalf, right? So if there's any maintenance that requires payment, they will also inform you. Okay. The agent will also generate a monthly statement that will send to your email, so you are fully aware of what they have collected, what they have deducted, and what may have spent on the maintenance itself. Now, how do the agent charge for their service? Right, so for the tenancy setup stage, usually they will charge a one-time fee, maybe about 500 to 600 pounds or so, right? For the full management service is on a recurring basis. So typically they collect the rental from tenant and they deduct their cut, and then they credit the balance amount to your bank account, right? The full management charge is typically about 7.5 to 10%, plus the VAT, it will be net about 9% to 12% of the rent. So just an illustration, for example, if the tenant is paying £1,500, the agent collect it and deducts off, let's say 9% net, and the agent will credit the balance £1,365 into your bank account. So it means they get paid first, then they pay to you, right? So on top of that, if there's any maintenance request that requires additional money, right, the agent will handle for you on the spot, but they will bill it to you, right? So if you have sufficient funds in the with them, they will just deduct it. Otherwise, they will just ask you to top it up, right? Most of the time, they will seek permission from the landlord, if especially the amount is very big, right, before they proceed, right? Usually for the new build properties, you don't see this happening very often because new build, everything is new. Most of the defects would have been settled by the developers, right? So these are the two different types of services that agent will charge to you, right? The actual charge depends on the agent themselves, right? Some may not even charge you the one-time tenancy setup service, but they charge slightly higher management service itself. The next common question I get is, how soon do I need to engage a property management company? Right, you do not really need to engage them too soon. You can do that like 3 months before the completion of a property. Maybe there will be a minimum engagement clause, maybe 12 months or so, but it is pretty okay. After the 12 months, you'll be on a rolling contract. Typically, I wouldn't recommend to change an agent, after you have engaged it. After all, they are pretty familiar with the property itself. They know what has been done, what defects there was. So choose your agent wisely. So one final thing I want to highlight is that as a non-resident landlord, the management agent is supposed to retain about 20% of the rent as withholding tax, right? So this might have a small impact to your cash flow, right? So take note of that. Now, there are two ways to overcome this. Number one, you can call into the HMRC hotline. You update them that you are working with this particular management agent, and requesting for waiver of the withholding tax. Now HMRC will process this, then they will send a letter to acknowledgement letter to both agent and yourself to say that, okay, now you don't need to pay, or rather the agent don't need to retain the tax, you can get the full sum, right? Now I'm showing here a copy of the notice that I have received showing that HMRC had officially agreed that the agent do not need to withhold the tax for me, right? So the second method is pretty straightforward, that is to purchase the property in a company name, right? HMRC will see that this property is being held by a UK-based company, so therefore they waive this tax requirement, right? So I will talk about buying under personal compared to limited company in another video. So now that I've covered most of the points that you need to know about property management, right? Let me just wrap up with a few personal tips just for you. Firstly, and most obviously, choose the agent wisely, because as I said earlier, we try not to change agents since they're already familiar with the property, right? So do your due diligence check on their reputation, on their skill, or make sure it's not just a one-man show, right? Make sure that they have a local presence in where your property is located, right? My company actually has a partnership with some local agents, so if you like, just let me know. I can share the contact to you, or I can share with you my personal contact. Just drop me a message below, right? Secondly, the management agent may ask you to buy insurance that will cover the tenant defaulting the rent for the period of stay. This is optional, but I would recommend that you take it up, because this basically provides a protection, right? In case things don't go the way of the tenant, you maybe they lost a job or whatever, right? You at least get your peace protected, right? Point number 3, please make sure that you keep all the receipts for the expenses. These will come in very handy when it comes to tax filing, right? Receipts such as your management fee expenses, your repair receipts, your MCST receipts, etc., right? So you need them to claim for certain tax reliefs, etc., right? And just make it a habit to track it. All right, I've come to the end of the sharing. If there's any comments or questions, please feel free to drop in the comment section below. Remember to hit like and subscribe, and stay safe, and I'll hear from you soon.